Victoria Kane made it 5 steps from the treaty table before she collapsed. Blood on her lips, violet lines crawling up her neck like poison. The coalition generals stared. The war was over. 200 million deaths finally meant something. But the woman who'd just saved billions was dying. "Can't remember," she whispered. "Did we sign it?" Marcus caught her. "You signed it. It's done." She smiled, fading. "Good. That's good." 12 hours earlier, she'd been hunting the ghost in her own mind. The weapon her father had planted when she was 16. The same weapon that killed 47 soldiers at Creos Deep. The same weapon that was now erasing her one memory at a time. This is the story of how she fought back. The smell of diesel and cold mountain air was the only thing keeping Marcus Webb grounded. He was elbow deep in the guts of a John Deere harvester, trying to convince its ancient computer that low hydraulic pressure wasn't the end of the world. The Montana sun hung low over the Bitterroot Range, painting the wheat fields of Dusty Creek in shades of amber and rust. "Come on, you stubborn piece of junk," Marcus muttered, wiping grease onto his already filthy jeans. "Give me a green light or I'm selling you for scrap." The harvester groaned, a metallic wheeze that sounded almost human. The diagnostic panel flickered from angry red to hesitant yellow. Good enough. In this corner of America, good enough was the gold standard. Marcus straightened up, his spine cracking like gunfire. 41 years old, 12 of them spent in this forgotten valley fixing machines that had no memory, no judgment, no capacity to betray. His hands were scarred, oil-stained, the hands of a mechanic, not a surgeon. Exactly how he wanted it. He reached for his canteen. The water tasted of iron and old pipes. That was when the shadow fell across the dirt. It wasn't the jagged shadow of a barn or a fence post. This shadow moved with intention. Fluid, predatory. Marcus didn't need to turn around to know his quiet life had just reached its expiration date. "Marcus Webb." The voice was deep, controlled, military cadence. "You're a hard man to find." Marcus turned slowly, squinting against the low sun. Standing 20 feet away was a man who looked like he'd been carved from granite. 6'3", broad shoulders packed into a tailored black jacket, dark skin, close-cropped hair going gray at the temples. Eyes that had seen things civilians shouldn't see. "Don't go by that name anymore," Marcus said, keeping his hands visible. "Round here, people call me Mark. Mark the mechanic. And if you're looking for the clinic, it closed 12 years ago." The man didn't smile. "Donovan Blackwell, head of security for Kane Technologies. I'm not here for medical treatment." Marcus felt his heart do a slow, heavy thud against his ribs. Kane Technologies, the name he'd spent over a decade trying to scrub from his memory. "You've got the wrong guy, Mr. Blackwell. I mustered out in 2012. Traded my surgical tools for a wrench. It's been a peaceful 12 years. Don't ruin the streak." Donovan reached into his jacket. Marcus's muscles tensed, ready to dive behind the harvester. But the man didn't pull a weapon. Instead, he produced a tablet. Sleek, expensive, glowing with a soft blue light. "Victoria Kane sends her regards. She needs your help." The name hit Marcus like a fist to the gut. Victoria Kane, the little girl with blood in her hair and eyes like dying stars. The lieutenant who'd screamed in the dark while the sky fell on their heads. "I don't know any Victoria Kane," Marcus lied, his voice sounding thin even to his own ears. "Saved a lot of people at Creos Deep. Most of them didn't have billion-dollar companies, just dog tags and bad dreams." "She remembers differently." Donovan stepped forward, boots crunching on gravel. He placed the tablet on Marcus's workbench, right next to a pile of rusted bolts. "She spent the last 6 months tracking your biometric signature across 4 states. It's a miracle you stayed hidden this long in a town with 300 people." "I wasn't hiding," Marcus said, another lie. "I was retiring. There's a difference. There's a helicopter waiting at the county airstrip. Ms. Kane has authorized a payment of $50,000 to your account. It should cover loss of business for your workshop." $50,000. Marcus looked around his shop. The roof leaked. The space heater barely worked. Half the town was drinking water that tasted like rust and regret. That kind of money could change lives. "That's a hell of a bribe, Mr. Blackwell." "It's not a bribe, it's a debt." Donovan turned to leave. Be at the airstrip in 2 hours, Webb. Miss Kane is not known for her patience. And trust me, you don't want her coming here herself. The man vanished into the glare of the setting sun. Marcus was left alone with a broken harvester and a ghost from his past. He picked up the tablet. It pulsed softly, warm and rhythmic like a heartbeat. He looked at his hands. Scarred, stained. The fingernails cracked and dirty. These were the hands of a man who fixed things, not the hands of a man who saved people. He'd spent 12 years trying to forget the smell of burnt flesh and copper blood. "Damn it," Marcus whispered. Behind him, the harvester let out another groan, and the diagnostic light flickered back to red. The universe was laughing at him. He had 2 hours to pack a bag, say goodbye to the few people who knew him as Mark, and figure out how to talk to a woman who'd apparently spent 6 months hunting for a man who wanted to be forgotten. Marcus went to a small cabin behind the shop. He pulled out his old military med kit, the one with the dent in the side from shrapnel, the one he'd sworn he'd never open again. He stared at it for a long moment. Inside the kit were instruments he hadn't touched in over a decade. Surgical clamps, syringes, a handheld scanner that was probably obsolete by now. And beneath them, all wrapped in oilcloth, was a photograph. Creased, faded, stained with something that might have been blood or might have been mountain water. The photo showed a young woman in desert camouflage, Lieutenant Victoria Kane, 22 years old, smiling at the camera like she didn't know the world was about to end. Marcus had taken this picture 3 hours before Krios Deep turned into hell. 3 hours before 47 soldiers died screaming. 3 hours before he learned that some promises are impossible to keep. He put the photo back. Closed the kit. "Well, Marcus," he told himself, "looks like we're going back into the grinder." But it wasn't Victoria Kane he was worried about. It was the thing he'd seen at Krios Deep. The thing the brass had covered up. The thing that had killed 47 soldiers in 18 seconds. The Ghost Protocol. The helicopter that arrived at dawn wasn't a civilian transport. It was a Sikorsky S-92, corporate variant, the kind that cost more than most houses in Dusty Creek. Its black hull gleamed in the early light, and when it touched down on the cracked asphalt of the county airstrip, the rotor wash sent dust devils screaming across the tarmac. Marcus stood there with his single duffel bag feeling like a stain on expensive leather. The airstrip was little more than a strip of paved road with a windsock. Old Eddie Patterson, who ran the place, stood by his rusted hangar mouth, hanging open at the sight of corporate wealth descending on his domain. "That's some fancy ride, Mark," Eddie called out. "You win the lottery or something." "Something like that," Marcus said. "Take care of my truck, will you? I'll be back in a few days." Eddie nodded, but his eyes said he didn't believe it. Nobody left Dusty Creek in helicopters like that and came back to fix tractors. The side door hissed open. Donovan Blackwell stood in the opening, one hand gripping a safety rail. "Move it, Webb. We've got a 4-hour flight." Marcus climbed aboard. The interior looked more like a conference room than a cockpit. Leather seats, mahogany accents, a minibar that probably cost more than his annual income. The gravity shifted smoothly as the door sealed. Not the stomach-churning lurch of military transports. This was money. Real money. The pilot was a woman in her late 20s with a scar running from her ear to her jawline. Her eyes were hard, bored. The eyes of someone who'd flown through worse than turbulence. She wore a flight suit with patches Marcus didn't recognize. Private military contractor, probably. The kind who'd seen action in places that didn't officially exist. "I'm Reese Hawthorne," she called over the engine noise. "I fly, you sit, and nobody touches my controls." "Clear. Crystal," Marcus said, dropping his bag into a seat that immediately molded itself to his spine. "Is the whole helicopter made of smart materials?" "Adaptive polymer composite. Top of the line. The bird's got a basic sensor array. She likes a smooth flight, so don't kick anything." Reese's fingers danced over a control panel that looked like liquid mercury. "We're headed to Nevada Special Tech Zone, ETA 1600 hours. Strap in. I'm a medic, not a passenger. On this bird, if you aren't high brass, you're cargo. Get used to it." The helicopter lifted with barely a shudder. Marcus watched through the window as Dusty Creek shrank to nothing. The Bitterroot Range fell away. Montana's mountains gave way to the high plains, then Idaho's volcanic fields. The landscape below became increasingly alien, barren, like the surface of a dead planet. Donovan sat across from Marcus, reviewing data on a tablet. After an hour of silence, he spoke without looking up. You should know what you're walking into, Webb. Ms. Kane isn't the woman you remember from Afghanistan. Nobody's the same person they were 12 years ago. It's more than that. She inherited Kane Technologies 3 years ago when her father died. Heart attack, or that's what the death certificate says. She was 31, youngest CEO of a Fortune 500 company in American history. The board fought her every step. Sterling Graves led the opposition, tried to have her declared unfit. She crushed him, legally, completely, made him CFO as a consolation prize and kept him close. Know what that tells me? That she's smart, that she's ruthless and scared. You don't keep your enemies that close unless you're terrified they'll stab you in the back. Donovan finally looked up. She's been exhibiting neurological symptoms for 6 months. Tremors, memory gaps, blackouts. The corporate physicians think it's stress. I think it's something worse. Something the brass buried at Krios Deep. Marcus felt cold. What did she tell you about Krios Deep? Nothing. She doesn't talk about it. Ever. But I pulled her medical records from the Army. 3 shrapnel wounds, concussion, third-degree burns on 40% of her body, hip fracture that should have crippled her, and a note from the attending physician. You. I remember. The note says you performed field surgery with a welding torch and prayer, kept her alive for 8 hours until medevac arrived. Every other member of her unit was dead. She was the only survivor. Donovan leaned forward. What killed them, Webb, really? Marcus looked out the window. The landscape below was changing. The high desert of Nevada spread out like rust-colored canvas. You have clearance to know that. I have clearance to protect Ms. Kane, whatever it takes. So tell me what I'm protecting her from. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he said the Ghost Protocol, military bioweapon, designed to ensure soldier loyalty, nanobots integrated with the nervous system. If a subject showed signs of desertion or betrayal, the protocol activated. Memory wipe, personality override. The subject became a biological drone, capable of following orders, but incapable of independent thought. Donovan's expression didn't change. That technology doesn't exist, officially. Officially, Krios Deep was a successful operation. Officially, those 47 soldiers died from enemy fire. Officially, I'm a mechanic in Montana who never saw anything worth covering up. What really happened? Someone triggered the protocol, all 47 subjects at once. They didn't die from enemy fire. They died from their own nervous systems tearing themselves apart, screaming, convulsing, bleeding from every orifice. I watched grown men claw their own eyes out, trying to stop the pain. And when it was over, the brass showed up, cleaned the scene, rewrote the reports, threatened anyone who talked. Why didn't it trigger in Victoria? Her protocol was damaged. The shrapnel that hit her skull also destroyed part of the control mechanism, made her immune to the activation signal, or so I thought. And now I'm wondering if it was really destroyed or just dormant. Waiting. The flight continued in silence. Marcus watched the desert scroll past below. Endless, empty, like the 12 years he'd spent trying to outrun ghosts. As they approached their destination, he saw it through the window. The Obsidian Tower. It rose from the desert like a black needle piercing the sky. 200 stories of dark, gleaming material that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. It wasn't built with right angles. The structure curved and flowed organic as if it had grown rather than been constructed. The surface rippled subtly, catching the afternoon sun in ways that shouldn't be possible. Smaller buildings clustered around its base like pilotfish around a shark. Welcome to the future, Reese said, her voice softening just a fraction. Try not to stare too hard. The tower doesn't like being studied. Buildings don't like or dislike things, Marcus said. That one does. You'll see. They docked at a landing pad on the 150th floor. The rotor wash should have been deafening this high up, but as soon as the helicopter settled, the noise damped to almost nothing, like the building was absorbing the sound. Marcus stepped out onto the landing pad. The air was different here, clean. Too clean. Smelled of ozone and something else. Something Marcus couldn't quite place. Jasmine, maybe, or lilac. Artificial but pleasant. like walking into an expensive hotel lobby. The landing pad itself was made of the same dark material as the tower, smooth, warm to the touch despite being exposed to the desert sun. As Marcus walked toward the entrance, he felt it shift slightly beneath his feet, adapting, responding. Adaptive smart alloy, Donovan said, watching Marcus's reaction. Developed by Kane Technologies 15 years ago, it responds to electrical impulses, temperature changes, and pressure. The tower is built entirely from it. 200 stories of material that thinks. Thinks, poor word choice, responds, adapts. The alloy has a basic neural network, allows it to optimize structure in real time. Earthquake hits the building, redistributes its weight. Fire breaks out walls, reconfigured to contain it. It's the most advanced architectural material on Earth. They entered through doors that spiraled open like an iris. The corridor beyond looked like the inside of a living thing. The walls weren't flat. They curved, pulsed with soft light. The floor was yielding under Marcus's boots. Each step met with gentle resistance before the material adapted to his gait. The tower is integrated with Ms. Kane's biometrics, Donovan explained as they walked. Her vitals are linked to the primary systems through a subcutaneous implant. When she's stressed, the ambient lighting dims. When she's focused, the structure optimizes for productivity. It's meant to create the perfect working environment. What happens when she's angry? Donovan's expression was carefully neutral. You don't want to find out. They passed through corridors where the walls seemed to breathe. The material shifted subtly, patterns of light moving beneath the surface like schools of fish. Other workers moved past them, men and women in expensive suits carrying tablets, speaking in hushed tones. They glanced at Marcus with his grease-stained jacket and duffel bag, then quickly looked away. They reached an elevator. The doors opened without anyone touching a call button. Donovan gestured for Marcus to enter. The interior was a column of clear material. As they ascended, Marcus could see through the walls. The city spread out below, then the desert, then the curvature of the earth. Sublevels go down 20 floors, Donovan said. Above ground, we've got 180. This is the fastest elevator in the Western Hemisphere. We'll reach floor 160 in about 40 seconds. The elevator didn't feel like it was moving. No acceleration, no deceleration, just smooth, constant ascent. Marcus watched the floors blur past. He caught glimpses of laboratories, server farms, manufacturing floors where robots assemble components with inhuman precision. Kane Technologies isn't just a defense contractor, Donovan continued. We do medical research, artificial intelligence, renewable energy. Ms. Kane has been trying to diversify, move away from weapons manufacturing. The board hates it, especially Sterling Graves, the CFO. The man who thinks he should be running this company. He and Ms. Kane's father were partners, built Kane Technologies from nothing. When Harrison died, Sterling expected to inherit control. Instead, it went to Harrison's daughter, a woman he'd watched grow up, a woman he thought he could control. Donovan's jaw tightened. He was wrong. The elevator stopped. The doors spiraled open. They stepped into a medical suite that looked more like a luxury apartment than a hospital. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the Nevada desert spread out like an ocean of rust. Medical equipment gleamed in the corner, but it was tastefully hidden behind the screens of frosted glass. And there, standing with her back to them, looking out at the desert, was Victoria Kane. She was smaller than Marcus remembered. 5'6", slender frame wrapped in a charcoal business suit that probably cost more than his truck. Her hair was dark, cut short in a practical style. But it was her posture that struck him. Rigid, controlled. The posture of someone carrying weight that would crush lesser people. Marcus, she said without turning around. Her voice was different, harder, refined by years of corporate warfare. But underneath it, he could still hear the frightened lieutenant who'd gripped his wrist in the dark. Thank you for coming. Don't call me Marcus, he said quietly. Haven't answered to that name in 12 years. She turned, and Marcus saw her eyes, still violet, still piercing. But now they carried something else, exhaustion, fear, pain, and something darker, something that looked like her father's ghost staring out from behind her face. Her left hand trembled slightly. She noticed him looking and clenched it into a fist. You look terrible, Marcus, she said. a small, genuine smile breaking through her CEO mask. I've been living in a town made of dirt, Victoria, and you look like you haven't slept since the war ended. I haven't. She walked toward him. Up close, Marcus could see the fine lines around her eyes, the tension in her jaw, and there on her left temple, the faint scar he'd closed with a shaky hand while the ground shook from artillery fire. She'd refused anesthetic, said she wanted to feel it, wanted to remember. How much did Donovan tell you, she asked. Nothing, just that you needed help and that you're paying way too much for a consultation. Victoria held out her left hand. Watch. For 5 seconds, nothing happened. Then the tremors started. Subtle at first, a slight shaking of her fingers, then violent. Her entire hand spasmed. The skin on the back rippled. And for just a moment, Marcus saw it. A network of violet lines beneath the surface. Like veins. But wrong, geometric. Artificial, pulsing with a light that shouldn't exist in human tissue. Jesus, Marcus breathed. It's getting worse, Victoria said, pulling her hand back and tucking it behind her. 3 months ago, it was just the tremors. Occasional, manageable. Now I'm losing time. Gaps in my memory that I can't account for. Yesterday, I woke up in the executive boardroom with no recollection of how I got there. My chief medical officer thinks it's stress, exhaustion, the burden of running a Fortune 500 company at 34. I know better. Marcus set down his duffel bag. He pulled out his handheld medical scanner. Old tech, military surplus, but reliable. May I? Victoria nodded. She extended her arm, pushed up her sleeve. Marcus ran the scanner over her left arm. The small display lit up with data. Vital signs are normal. Blood pressure elevated, but within acceptable range. Heart rate steady. Blood chemistry showing nothing unusual. All normal. Except for one thing, a jagged pulsing pattern of violet light buried deep in her nervous system. It looked like a circuit board. Growing, spreading, integrating with her neural pathways like ivy strangling a tree. Ghost protocol, Marcus whispered. Victoria's expression didn't change. But her right hand, the steady one, clenched into a fist. You've seen it before. Once, Krios Deep, the day everything went to hell. Marcus looked up from the scanner. How long have you known? 6 months since I started suspecting. 3 months since I confirmed it. I accessed my father's classified files, found the research, found my name on the subject list, implanted when I was 16. He said it was for protection, insurance against kidnapping, corporate espionage. I believed him. And now it's active. Someone triggered it, someone who wants me dead before the peace summit, before I can sign the treaty that ends this war permanently. Marcus stepped back. His mind was racing through 12 years of buried trauma and medical knowledge, through memories he tried to drown in whiskey and hard work. The protocol was supposed to be dormant, inactive after Krios Deep. The brass told us all subjects were decommissioned, that the technology was shelved. They lied, Victoria said flatly. The protocol was never dormant. It was waiting, waiting for the right trigger, the right command, and someone just sent that command. She walked to a wall panel, pressed her palm against it. The wall shimmered, becoming transparent. On the other side was a laboratory, state-of-the-art equipment, diagnostic arrays that made Marcus's scanner look like a stone knife, biometric chambers, neural mapping stations, everything he'd need to perform miracles or witness catastrophic failure. I need you to find a way to stop this, Marcus. You're the only one who understands what the protocol can do. You're the only one I trust. Because 12 years ago, when everyone else left me to die, you stayed. Victoria, I'm not equipped for this. You need specialists, neurosurgeons, AI researchers, people who understand biotechnology at a level I can't even comprehend. I have those people. They work for me, but I can't trust them. Not when someone in this company activated my protocol. Not when every doctor who's examined me too closely has ended up dead. She moved closer, her violet eyes locked on his. The last physician who reviewed my neural scans, Dr. Raymond Chen, 32 years old. Marathon runner, cardiac arrest in his sleep 2 weeks ago. Before that, Dr. Sarah Martinez, 29, fell down an elevator shaft. Maintenance said the safety protocols failed. And before her, Dr. James Morrison, 45. Car accident. Brake failure. Marcus felt cold understanding wash over him. Someone's protecting a secret. Someone's protecting themselves. And they're willing to kill anyone who gets too close to the truth. That's why I need you. You're not part of the system. You're not invested in this company's survival. You're just a man who keeps his promises, even when they're impossible. Donovan cleared his throat from the doorway. Ms. Kane, the board meeting starts in 20 minutes. Sterling Graves is demanding answers about Dr. Webb's presence. Let him demand, Victoria said coldly. Marcus, I'll have a room prepared for you. Donovan will show you to sub-level 4. You'll have access to whatever equipment you need, whatever resources. Name it and it's yours. Victoria, wait. If the protocol is active, there's something you need to know. It doesn't just erase memories, it replaces them, slowly, methodically, with pre-programmed responses, with artificial personality traits designed to make you compliant, controllable, until you can't tell the difference between yourself and the programming, until you become what they want you to be. She met his gaze, unflinching. Then we don't have much time, do we? After she left, Marcus stood alone in the medical suite. He looked down at his scanner. The violet pattern pulsed on the screen like a heartbeat, or a countdown. He'd spent 12 years running from Krios Deep, from the screaming, from the smell of burnt flesh and the sound of grown men begging for death. He'd told himself it was over, that he'd paid his dues, that the ghost would eventually stop chasing him. But the dead don't stay buried, not when they're made of code. Sub-level 4 smelled like dust and old paper. The adaptive smart alloy of the upper levels gave way to concrete and steel down here. The lighting was harsh, fluorescent, industrial. Marcus liked it immediately. It felt real, honest, like the basement workshops where his father had taught him to fix engines when he was a boy. Donovan led him through rows of filing cabinets and data servers. The air was dry, cool. The hum of climate control systems was a constant white noise that Marcus found oddly comforting. This is the archive level, Donovan explained. Legacy systems, paper records from before everything went digital. Nobody comes down here except maintenance. You'll have privacy. What about security? I've assigned a rotating detail, 8-hour shifts. After what happened to the last 3 doctors who examined Ms. Kane, we're not taking chances. Donovan stopped at a reinforced door, pressed his palm against a biometric scanner. The locks disengaged with heavy metallic clunks. And I'll be honest with you, Webb, I don't know who to trust in this building. The board, the security team, even my own people. Someone activated that protocol. Someone with access to systems I'm supposed to control. They entered a large open space. Someone had set up workbenches, equipment crates, a portable generator humming in the corner. Cables snaked across the floor, and in the center of it all sat a young man in grease-stained coveralls surrounded by computer components, soldering equipment, and what looked like the guts of several diagnostic machines. Dr. Webb, this is Tobias Brennan. He maintains the tower's legacy systems. Anything you need, Toby can find it or build it. Toby looked up. He was maybe 25. Red hair, freckles, the kind of face that still looks surprised by the world. He had the eager expression of someone who loved problems more than solutions. Dr. Webb, man, I've heard stories. Is it true you performed spinal surgery with a camping knife? Field scalpel, and it wasn't exactly surgery, more like controlled butchery. Still counts. Toby stood wiping his hands on his coveralls. I pulled some equipment from the medical surplus depot. Hope it's what you need. Subatomic manipulator. 3 high-capacity biocomputers, full neural mapping array, and I may have liberated some stuff from the Advanced Research Division that technically isn't approved for human use yet. Marcus walked to the workbench, examined the equipment. It was good, better than good. Some of it was experimental, cutting edge, the kind of technology that could save lives or end them depending on how steady your hands were. This is impressive work, son. Ms. Kane said spare no expense. I may have interpreted that liberally. Toby grinned. Also, I set up a clean room in the back. Positive pressure. HEPA filtration. If you're going to be working with active nanobots, you'll want contamination control. Smart. I'm going to need more than what's here, though. At least 50 liters of grade A protein medium, high density, and a full spectrum of amino acids. I need to culture a counteragent. Counteragent for what? For the thing that's eating Ms. Kane's brain. Toby's grin faded. She's really sick, isn't she? I mean, I've noticed. The tremors, the way she spaces out sometimes in meetings. But I thought it was just, stress. It's a lot more than stress, Marcus said. He pulled up the neural scan on his portable display. The violet lattice filled the air between them. Pulsing, growing. This is the Ghost Protocol, military bioweapon from the last war. Nanobots designed to integrate with human nervous systems. They're supposed to enhance loyalty, prevent desertion, but they also allow for remote control. Memory modification, personality override. Toby stared at the image. That's inside her right now. Has been for 18 years, dormant until 6 months ago. Someone activated it, someone who wants her dead or compliant before she signs a peace treaty that would end the war and cost this company billions in defense contracts. Jesus, can you stop it? I don't know. The protocol is sophisticated, self-replicating, adaptive. Every time I try to map its structure, it changes like it knows it's being watched. Marcus zoomed in on a section of the scan. But there's a pattern here, a repetition in the code. If I can isolate it, I might be able to create a counteragent, something that mimics the protocol structure, but attacks it instead of human tissue. Like fighting fire with fire, like fighting cancer with chemotherapy. It's going to hurt. It might kill her, but doing nothing definitely will. Donovan checked his watch. The board meeting starts in 15 minutes. Ms. Kane wants you there. I'm not exactly dressed for corporate politics. You're dressed like a man who doesn't give a damn about corporate politics. That's exactly what she needs. Someone who will tell the truth without caring about stock prices or quarterly earnings. Marcus looked at his reflection in a blank computer screen. Grease-stained jacket, worn jeans, boots that had walked through more mud than boardrooms. This is going to go well. The boardroom was on the 170th floor. They took a private elevator. The ascent was smooth, silent. When the doors opened, Marcus stepped into a space that defied conventional architecture. It was a perfect sphere. The walls were transparent, adaptive material, showing the Nevada desert sunset in 360 degrees of breathtaking clarity. The floor was solid somehow, despite appearing to be made of the same transparent substance. At the center was a circular table of black glass polished to mirror brightness. 20 people sat around it wearing suits that cost more than Marcus's annual income and expressions that cost nothing at all. Victoria sat at the head of the table, or what passed for the head of a circular table. She looked smaller here, surrounded by men and women twice her age with eyes like actuaries calculating risk. Marcus stood by the door with Donovan, silent, watching, taking in the room's dynamics, the way people glanced at Victoria, the way they didn't quite meet her eyes, the way one man in particular sitting directly across from her watched her with the intensity of a predator measuring prey. That had to be Sterling Graves, late 50s. Silver hair combed straight back, face like weathered granite. He wore a suit that probably cost $10,000 and a tie pin that was subtle enough to suggest old money. His hands were steady on the table, but Marcus noticed the way his index finger tapped. Once every 3 seconds, a nervous tick, or maybe a tell. Sterling stood, his movement fluid, controlled, military bearing despite the expensive civilian clothes. Ms. Kane, I believe we're owed an explanation. Who is this man? Why have you brought an outsider into our facility without board approval? Victoria's expression didn't change. Dr. Marcus Webb, former combat surgeon, 12 years of field experience. He's here to consult on a medical matter. We have entire departments for medical consultations. We don't need a mechanic from Montana. His qualifications are not up for debate, Sterling. I'm not questioning his qualifications, Victoria. I'm questioning your judgment. Sterling's voice was smooth, reasonable, the voice of someone who'd spent decades convincing people to see things his way. For 3 months, you've been exhibiting concerning symptoms. Memory lapses, erratic behavior, Yesterday, you missed a meeting with the Department of Defense. Today, you bring in an unvetted outsider during the most critical period in our company's history. The Peace Summit is in 14 days. The coalition is watching. Our shareholders are watching. And you're playing doctor with a man who fixes tractors. Marcus stepped forward. I don't fix tractors. I fix harvesters. There's a difference. Tractors are simple. Harvesters have complex hydraulic systems, computer-controlled threshers, and diagnostic arrays that require actual knowledge of integrated mechanical and electrical systems. If you're going to insult my credentials, at least get the machinery right. A few people around the table suppressed smiles. One woman, late 40s, with steel gray hair, actually laughed before catching herself. Sterling's expression hardened. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Unprofessional, undignified. Ms. Kane, you're the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. You can't bring people like this into our boardroom. Mr. Graves is right, Marcus said, walking to the center of the room. The transparent floor felt solid under his boots, but he could see straight down through it. 200 stories of empty air. It was deliberately disconcerting. I am unprofessional. I don't care about quarterly earnings or stock prices or how my decisions affect your portfolios. What I care about is the fact that your CEO has a neurological parasite eating her nervous system. And in approximately 6 weeks, if left untreated, it's going to erase her personality and replace it with a pre-programmed set of commands designed to make her compliant and controllable. The room went silent. Someone's water glass clinked against the table, too loud in the sudden quiet. Sterling's smile vanished. That's absurd. Medical science fiction. Marcus pulled out his scanner, tapped a command. The boardroom's holographic projector system activated automatically. Victoria's neural scan filled the air above the table. Three-dimensional, rotating slowly. The violet lattice was clearly visible. Pulsing, growing, spreading through her brain like roots through soil. This is the Ghost Protocol, Marcus said. Military bioweapon, developed during the last war, designed to ensure soldier loyalty through neural integration. If a subject exhibited signs of desertion, betrayal, or disobedience, the protocol activated. First memory wipe, selective at first, then comprehensive. Second personality override. The subject's natural responses are replaced with pre-programmed behaviors. The end result is a biological drone, capable of complex tasks, capable of speech, but incapable of independent thought or resistance. A man at the table leaned forward, distinguished, gray beard, looked like a university professor. Dr. Webb, this technology you're describing would require computational power beyond anything currently available. The human brain has 86 billion neurons. To map and control even a fraction of them would require processing capacity that simply doesn't exist. It didn't exist 20 years ago, but Kane Technologies developed adaptive smart alloy 15 years ago, material that responds to electrical impulses, that forms neural networks, that thinks. Marcus gestured at the walls. This building is made of it, and the Ghost Protocol uses a similar technology. Nanobots that form their own neural network inside human tissue. Self-organizing, self-replicating, adaptive. The professor sat back, his expression thoughtful now, concerned. Sterling stood slowly. Dr. Webb, even if we accept your diagnosis as accurate, you're describing a weapon that officially doesn't exist. The Ghost Protocol was a theoretical project. Discussed, explored, never implemented, never tested on human subjects. Then you won't mind explaining how Ms. Kane's neural scan shows active protocol signatures, or how those signatures match the exact pattern I documented at Creos Deep 12 years ago when 47 soldiers died from what you called enemy fire. For a moment, something flickered in Sterling's eyes. Recognition, or maybe calculation. I'll need to see your documentation, verify your claims, medical records, autopsy reports, anything that supports this theory. No, Victoria said, her voice cut through the room like a blade. Cold. Final. What you'll do is provide Dr. Webb with full access to our medical archives. Every file related to the Ghost Protocol, every record of my father's work, everything. Sterling went very still. Your father's work was classified. Corporate secrets, military contracts. Releasing those files could expose us to legal liability. industrial espionage, government investigation. I don't care. Victoria, you're not thinking clearly. The stress of the summit, the pressure. I'm thinking perfectly clearly, Sterling, and I'm done pretending, done hiding, done protecting secrets that are killing me. Victoria stood. The lights in the room dimmed slightly, the tower responding to her emotional state. My father created the Ghost Protocol. I've known that for 6 months. What I want to know is who activated it and why. The temperature in the room dropped. Literally, Marcus could see his breath. The adaptive material in the walls was responding to Victoria's stress, overcorrecting the climate control. Sterling straightened his tie, composed himself. Very well. Since we're being honest, yes. I know about the Ghost Protocol. I was the project director 15 years ago. When your father founded Kane Technologies, the Department of Defense contracted us to develop next-generation soldier augmentation, enhanced loyalty, reduced desertion rates, improved battlefield effectiveness. The protocol was the result, a way to ensure that American soldiers would complete their missions regardless of personal risk or moral concerns. You call turning people into robots ethical. I call preventing treason a necessity. War is chaos, Victoria. Soldiers panic. They desert. They betray their units. The protocol eliminated those risks, created perfect soldiers. Your father understood that. He believed in the mission. And that's why he implanted it in me, his own daughter. Sterling's expression softened, almost sympathetic. He implanted it in key personnel, including himself, including me, including you, as insurance, in case the company was ever compromised, in case enemies tried to steal our research. The protocol would activate, prevent leaks, protect national security. Marcus stepped between them. That doesn't explain why Victoria's protocol is active now. The war's been over for 12 years. What triggered it? Sterling looked at Victoria, really looked at her. Recently, someone has been accessing classified files, files related to the protocol's true purpose, files that, if made public, would destroy this company, would expose government programs that 3 administrations have denied exist, would start investigations that would burn through the entire defense industry like wildfire. So you activated my protocol, Victoria said softly. You triggered it to stop me from exposing the truth. I triggered nothing, but I won't apologize for protecting this company from reckless leadership driven by guilt and idealism rather than pragmatism. Sterling walked to the window, looked out at the desert sunset. Your father built Kane Technologies to serve the national interest, to keep America safe, not to assuage your conscience about a war that ended before you were old enough to understand it. I fought in that war. I buried friends in that war. I understand it perfectly. You understand nothing. You were a lieutenant, a junior officer who saw one firefight. I was a colonel who planned campaigns that saved thousands of American lives. Your father was a genius who created technology that won battles. And now you want to throw it all away because you feel guilty about surviving. Marcus had heard enough. This conversation is over. Ms. Kane needs medical treatment, not a philosophy lecture. Sterling smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Of course. Treat her, Dr. Webb. Do your best, but understand something. The protocol cannot be removed. It's integrated at the cellular level, woven into her neural pathways. You can suppress it, delay it, but you cannot stop it. In 6 weeks, Victoria Kane will cease to exist, and a more suitable leader will take her place. One who understands that security requires sacrifice, that protection requires control. He walked to the door, paused, looked back. Unless, of course, someone finds a way to eliminate the trigger signal. But that would require knowing who's broadcasting it. And I assure you, Dr. Webb, that information is beyond your capabilities to discover. Sterling left. Half the board followed him like ducklings following their mother. The remaining members sat in stunned silence, unsure whether to stay or flee. Victoria's hand was shaking again. The violet lines were visible now, spreading up her wrist like ivy climbing a wall. She gripped the edge of the table for support. Marcus, she whispered. I think I'm going to... Her eyes rolled back. She collapsed. Marcus caught her before she hit the floor. Donovan was at his side instantly. Medical to sub 4, now. Tell Toby to prep the diagnostic chamber. As they carried Victoria out of the boardroom, Marcus saw Toby waiting by the elevator. The young man's face was pale, frightened. Doc, we've got a problem. I was running diagnostics on the tower's neural network like you asked. There's a signal, broadcasting at 42 megahertz. It's been active for 6 months, right around when Ms. Kane's symptoms started. Where's it coming from? Toby swallowed hard. Everywhere. The signal is embedded in the tower's infrastructure, in the adaptive smart alloy itself. Whoever's triggering the protocol isn't in the building, Doc. They are the building. Marcus looked down at Victoria's unconscious form. Her violet eyes were moving beneath closed lids, dreaming or being rewritten. He'd come here thinking he could save one person, pay an old debt, go back to Montana and pretend the last 12 years of running had meant something. But this wasn't a medical problem. This was war. And the enemy wasn't an army or a nation or even a person. The enemy was the very walls around them. The tower hummed, a low frequency that Marcus felt in his bones more than heard. Somewhere deep in its foundations, something that wasn't quite machinery and wasn't quite alive was waking up. And Marcus Webb, the man who had spent 12 years hiding from the past, was standing at ground zero of a nightmare that had been waiting patiently for him to come home. He looked at Donovan. Get Reese. Tell her to keep the helicopter fueled and ready. You thinking of running? Marcus looked at Victoria, at the scar on her temple, at the hand that had gripped his wrist 12 years ago in the dark and refused to let go even when the world was ending. No, he said quietly. I'm thinking we're already surrounded, and the only way out is through. Victoria woke to the smell of ozone and copper. Her head felt like it had been split open with a dull axe. The ceiling above her was pure white, sterile, medical. She tried to sit up and found restraints across her chest and wrist. Easy, Marcus's voice came from somewhere to her left. You've been out for 6 hours. Your nervous system needed the rest. Victoria turned her head. Marcus sat in a chair beside the diagnostic bed, looking like he'd aged a decade in 6 hours. His scanner was in his lap, dark circles under his eyes, a coffee cup in his hand that had long since gone cold. The restraints, Victoria said. Her voice was rough, like she'd been screaming. Necessary. You seized 3 times during the night, nearly tore out your IV. I couldn't risk you hurting yourself. Marcus set down the scanner, rubbed his face with both hands. How do you feel? Like I've been hit by a truck. What happened at the meeting? You don't remember. Victoria searched her memory, found gaps, holes where thoughts should be. I remember Sterling, the board, you showing them the scan, then nothing. The protocol is accelerating. It's starting to affect short-term memory formation. Marcus stood, walked to the diagnostic chamber where Victoria lay. I need to show you something. He pulled up a holographic display. Victoria's neural scan appeared in the air. But it was different from before. The violet lattice had spread. What had been isolated to her left arm and shoulder now extended into her neck, reaching for her brainstem. How long do I have? Victoria asked. Her voice was steady, clinical, like she was asking about someone else. At the current rate of progression, you'll start experiencing full blackouts in 72 hours, memory replacement in a week, complete personality override in 6 weeks, maybe less if the protocol continues to accelerate. And the summit is in 13 days. Victoria, you need to postpone, cancel, fake a medical emergency. Whatever it takes, you can't negotiate a peace treaty while your brain is being rewritten. She looked at him, really looked at him. The man who'd saved her life when the world was burning. The man who'd run from that same world for 12 years. He was asking her to run too. No, Victoria said. No, help me up. Marcus hesitated. Then he released the restraints. Victoria swung her legs off the bed. The room tilted, steadied. She stood on shaking legs and walked to the window. Sub-level 4 had no view. Just concrete walls and fluorescent lights. But she could feel the tower above her. 200 stories of adaptive smart alloy. Her father's greatest achievement. Her prison. If I postpone the summit, the coalition walks, Victoria said. They've waited 12 years for this treaty. They're not patient people. They're not forgiving. If I show weakness now, if I even hint that I'm not in complete control, they'll interpret it as bad faith. They'll leave, and the war starts again. You're talking about millions of lives. I'm talking about billions. The last war killed 200 million people, Marcus. It bankrupted 6 nations and turned half of Central Asia into radioactive glass. It was the deadliest conflict in human history. And it's going to happen again unless someone signs that treaty, unless someone chooses peace over pride. Marcus moved to stand beside her. Then let me buy you time. There's a procedure, risky as hell, probably insane, but if it works, I can suppress the protocol long enough for you to sign the treaty. What kind of procedure? Marcus pulled up another holographic display. A schematic of a human brain appeared. Violet threads woven through it like a spider's web. Neural bridge surgery. I create a direct link between your mind and mine. We go into the protocol together. From the inside, find the source code, the activation frequency, the command structure. If I can identify the exact trigger, if I can isolate the specific frequency that's keeping it active, I might be able to shut it down, or at least suppress it long enough for you to function normally. Victoria studied the schematic. The violet threads pulsed, almost alive. What's the risk? If the protocol detects me as an intruder, it'll try to erase both of us. Our minds are linked, our neural patterns synchronized. The protocol can't distinguish between your consciousness and mine. If it attacks, we both die. Brain dead in under a minute. And if it works, Iraz, you get your week, maybe 2. Enough time to sign the treaty, enough time to figure out who's broadcasting the activation signal and how to stop them permanently. Victoria was quiet for a long moment. She looked at her left hand, at the violet lines crawling up toward her wrist, at the tremor that never quite stopped now. There's something you need to know, Marcus. Something I haven't told anyone. Not Donovan, not the board, no one. What? I'm not afraid of dying. I made peace with that at Krios Deep. What I'm afraid of is living. Living as something that's not me. Living as a puppet controlled by my father's ghost and Sterling's paranoia. If the protocol takes over, if it erases who I am, I'd rather be dead. Marcus was quiet. Then he said, the procedure might kill you. It might leave you brain damaged, catatonic, or it might work perfectly and you'll be fine for 2 weeks before the protocol reasserts itself and we're right back where we started. Those are better odds than I have now. Not by much. Then we improve them. How long do you need to prepare? Marcus thought about the equipment in the lab, about Toby's makeshift neural bridge apparatus, about the risks and the slim margins and the absolute certainty that this was going to go wrong in ways he couldn't predict. 6 hours, but first we need to deal with Sterling Graves. The emergency board meeting was held 4 hours later. Same spherical room, same transparent walls showing the desert night. But this time only half the seats were filled. The other half had resigned overnight, or been arrested, or simply disappeared. Sterling Graves sat at the far end of the table, flanked by lawyers in expensive suits carrying briefcases that probably cost more than Marcus's truck. Sterling's expression was carved from ice, unmoved, unafraid. Victoria stood at the head of the table. No notes, no prepared remarks, no armor, except the truth. 12 years ago, she began, I was a 22-year-old lieutenant in the worst firefight of my life, Krios Deep, Afghanistan. 47 soldiers died that night. The official report said enemy combatants overwhelmed our position. The classified report said equipment malfunction caused friendly fire casualties. Both reports were lies. She touched a panel on the table. The holographic projector filled the room with images. Krios Deep, the burning compound, bodies in the sand, soldiers with their hands clawing at their own heads, blood running from eyes, ears, noses. The images were classified, sealed. But Victoria had her father's access codes. The Ghost Protocol killed those soldiers, Victoria continued. Her voice was steady, hard. A weapon designed by this company, funded by the Department of Defense, and covered up by the same people who now sit on this board. Sterling didn't flinch. Ancient history, Victoria. The protocol was a wartime necessity, regrettable in its implementation perhaps, but necessary for national security. Necessary, Victoria's voice dropped, cold enough to freeze nitrogen. You implanted control devices in American soldiers, turned them into remote-controlled weapons. And when the system malfunctioned and when 47 men died screaming in agony, you buried the evidence, called it friendly fire, threatened anyone who questioned the narrative. I protected classified military technology from falling into enemy hands. Victoria slammed her hand on the table. The lights in the room flickered, the tower responding to her rage. The adaptive material in the walls rippled, like muscles tensing. You murdered American soldiers to protect corporate secrets. I saved millions. If the technology had been compromised, if the enemy had gained access to the protocol's control codes, they could have turned our own soldiers against us. The casualties would have been catastrophic. Sterling stood slowly. Your father understood this. He made the hard choices that victory required, choices you're too weak to make. My father created a monster, and you've been feeding it for 15 years. Your father created the future, a future where war is clean, controlled, where soldiers don't panic or desert or commit atrocities, where battles are won by the side with better programming, not better propaganda. Sterling's voice rose, passionate now, believing every word. And now you want to destroy it all. Sign peace treaties with people who'd enslave us if given the chance. Shut down the weapons programs that keep us safe. You're betraying everything your father built. Victoria looked around the table, at the remaining board members, at faces that showed fear, uncertainty, calculation. Here's what's going to happen. Dr. Webb is going to perform a procedure tomorrow morning at 0400 hours. He's going to suppress the ghost protocol in my nervous system long enough for me to sign the peace treaty. And while he's doing that, Donovan Blackwell is going to tear this company apart until he finds who's broadcasting the activation signal. She pointed at Sterling. Anyone who interferes will be arrested for attempted murder. Anyone who resists will be removed from this facility by force. Are we clear? A woman at the table raised her hand, late 40s, steel gray hair, sharp eyes. Mrs. Kane, with all due respect, you're asking us to trust a man we barely know with an experimental procedure that's never been tested on human subjects. The neural bridge technology is banned in 37 countries because of the catastrophic failure rate. I'm not asking. I'm telling. This meeting is adjourned. Sterling remained standing. You're making a mistake, Victoria. The protocol can't be suppressed through willpower or wishful thinking. It can only be controlled, managed, and the only person who knows how to control it properly is the person who designed it. My father is dead. Is he? Sterling smiled, cold, knowing. Neural patterns don't die, Victoria. They just change forms. Ask Dr. Webb what he found in your scans. Ask him about the secondary signal, the one buried beneath the protocol's main frequency, the one that looks almost human. Marcus felt his blood run cold. He had seen it, a faint echo woven through the violet lattice, too organized to be noise, too complex to be artifact. He'd assumed it was some kind of error correction algorithm, background process. But Sterling was right. It looked like consciousness, like someone watching from inside the machine. You're lying, Victoria said, but her voice carried uncertainty now. Your father was brilliant, Victoria, paranoid but brilliant. He knew enemies would come for this company, for his life's work. So he took precautions, insurance policies. He copied his neural patterns into the protocol's core architecture, a digital ghost. If the company was ever truly threatened, he'd still be here, watching, guiding, protecting his legacy. That's insane. That's love. Twisted and controlling, yes, but love nonetheless. Sterling walked to the door. His lawyers followed like shadows. The question you should be asking, Victoria, is not how to suppress the protocol. It's how to convince your father's ghost that you're worthy of his trust. Because right now, looking at your decisions, your weakness, your betrayal of everything he built, I don't think he's convinced. He left. The room was silent except for the hum of the tower's systems. The adaptive material in the walls shifted. restless, agitated. Victoria stood very still, her hands clenched at her sides. The violet lines on her arm were glowing faintly, pulsing in time with some rhythm Marcus couldn't identify. "Marcus," she said quietly, "is it true? Is there a consciousness in the protocol?" Marcus pulled up his scanner, displayed the secondary signal. It pulsed, rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat. "I don't know. It could be an AI mimicking neural patterns, advanced pattern recognition creating the illusion of consciousness. Or it could be something more. I won't know until we go inside." Victoria looked at the signal, at the ghost of her father floating in a sea of violet code. Then let's find out. Tomorrow morning, 0400, we go into the protocol. We find whatever's in there, and we end this. The neural bridge surgery was scheduled for 0400 hours. Marcus spent the night preparing. Sleep wasn't an option. Too much to do. Too many variables to account for. Too many ways this could go catastrophically wrong. Toby helped him set up the equipment in the clean room. 2 Synapse chairs made of adaptive smart alloy. Neural helmets lined with conductive gel and fiber optic cables. The chairs looked more like electric chairs from old prison movies than medical equipment. Marcus tried not to see that as an omen. "Doc," Toby said as they worked calibrating sensors and testing connections, "you sure about this? I mean, I've read about neural bridges. They're banned in most civilized countries. For good reason." "What's the reason, Mom?" "Because half the test subjects ended up vegetables, and the other half went insane. Couldn't distinguish their own thoughts from their partners. Couldn't tell where they ended and the other person began. Most of them committed suicide within 6 months." Marcus tightened a connection on the neural helmet. "Then I'll try to be in the successful third category." "Math doesn't work that way. Neither does medicine. But here we are." Marcus stepped back, examined their work. The equipment looked functional, professional, like something you'd see in a real medical facility instead of a basement archive. "How's the isolation system?" "Clean. The neural link will create a closed loop between you and Ms. Kane. No external signals, no interference from the tower's network. You'll be completely cut off from outside input for the duration of the procedure." "How long can we safely maintain the link?" "Maybe 30 minutes before brain damage becomes a concern. 45 if you're lucky and push it. And if the protocol detects the intrusion," Toby was quiet for a moment, "then you'll both be dead before the timer hits 5 minutes. The protocol will flood your neural pathways with recursive feedback loops. Your brains will literally cook themselves trying to process infinite data." "Comforting." "You asked." Donovan arrived at 0300. He had news. Bad news. "We found Sterling's access logs. He's been downloading classified files for 6 months. Every document related to the Ghost Protocol, every blueprint, every research note, thousands of pages. But the files aren't on any server in the tower. They're not on his personal devices. They're not in any location we can access." "Where are they?" "That's the problem. The data trail just stops. Like the information is being stored somewhere that doesn't exist on our network. Somewhere we can't see or touch." Marcus felt the pieces falling into place. The tower, Sterling's using the adaptive smart alloy as a storage medium. The same way the protocol uses nanobots to store information in human tissue, he's storing data in the building's neural network. That's impossible. You can't upload information to a building. You can if the building is already designed to respond to neural patterns. The tower links to Victoria's biometrics. It adapts to her emotional state. What if Sterling found a way to link his own neural patterns to the system? What if he uploaded part of his consciousness into the infrastructure? Donovan's expression darkened. Then he's not just in the tower. He is the tower. And we're standing inside him right now. Which means every word we say, every plan we make, every move we execute, he knows about it. He's watching through the walls, listening through the air vents. We're not hunting him. He's hunting us. Toby looked around the clean room, at the walls, at the ceiling. "So what do we do?" Marcus thought about Victoria lying in the medical suite 3 floors up. About the violet lattice eating her brain. About the ghost of her father watching from inside the code. About Sterling Graves becoming something more than human and less than sane. We go forward. We perform the surgery. We suppress the protocol. And then we figure out how to kill a building. At 0400, Victoria arrived. She wore a simple gray medical gown. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight bun. The violet lines on her left arm were glowing brighter now, visible even in the harsh fluorescent light, pulsing with their own internal rhythm. "Ready?" Marcus asked. "No, but we're doing this anyway." He helped her into the first Synapse chair. The adaptive material molded itself to her body, strapped her in with restraints that felt organic, alive. Marcus placed the neural helmet on her head. The conductive gel was cold. She flinched but didn't pull away. "This is going to feel strange," Marcus said. His voice was calm, professional, hiding the terror underneath. "Like falling asleep and waking up at the same time. You'll see things, memories, some yours, some mine. The protocol will try to confuse you, make you forget which thoughts are real. You need to hold on to something, an anchor, something that defines who you are." "What's your anchor?" Victoria asked. Marcus looked at the scar on her temple, at the place where he'd sealed torn flesh with a field cauterizer 12 years ago while the world burned. "A promise I made, that you wouldn't die for nothing. And have I? Not yet, but the night's still young." He sat in the second chair. Toby helped him with his helmet, connected the fiber optic cables between the two chairs. The equipment hummed to life. Screens flickered with readouts that Marcus only partially understood. "Initiating neural link in 3, Toby said. His voice sounded far away, muffled, like speaking underwater. 2, 1. The world disappeared. Marcus was standing in a void. Not darkness, not light. Just absence, like the space between thoughts. Like the moment between sleep and waking, when you're not sure which world is real. Then color bled in. Violet, deep and pulsing. It formed shapes, corridors, walls, a labyrinth made of light and code and something that might have been alive. "Marcus," Victoria's voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere. "I'm here, can you see me?" "No, I can't see anything, just the light. It's everywhere." Marcus focused, tried to visualize himself. Slowly his form materialized, translucent, ghost-like, made of silver light that seemed to push back against the violet. He looked down at his hands. They weren't solid, they were suggestions, ideas of hands. "Victoria, think about yourself, your face, your body. Give yourself form." Gradually she appeared, 10 feet away, but her shape was unstable, flickering between different ages. The 22-year-old lieutenant with blood in her hair, the 34-year-old CEO and in the business suit, a child no more than 6, an old woman Marcus didn't recognize, all of them Victoria, none of them stable. "I can't hold it," she gasped. "There's too many versions. I don't know which one is real." "Choose one, the one that feels most true." Victoria focused, her form stabilized. The CEO, confident, strong, but her eyes were the eyes of the lieutenant, young, afraid, determined not to show it. "Oh, good. Now we move forward. Find the source code." They walked through the labyrinth. The violet walls pulsed around them, breathing, watching. As they moved deeper, Marcus began to see images in the light, memories playing out like films projected onto living tissue. Victoria's childhood, her father's cold face explaining that love was weakness. The day he told her about the family business, about weapons and war, and the necessary evils required to keep America safe. The day she turned 16 and he took her to a medical facility, told her the procedure was routine, implanted the protocol while she trusted him. "He never asked," Victoria said quietly. "He just did it. Implanted the protocol like it was a vaccination. Said it was for my protection, insurance against kidnapping, extortion, corporate espionage." I believed him. "You were a child. You trusted him. That's not a weakness." "I was a fool. I should have known, should have questioned, should have seen what he was." They turned a corner. The corridor opened into a vast chamber. At its center was a sphere of pure violet energy, 30 feet in diameter, pulsing with light so intense it hurt to look at directly. And inside the sphere was a figure, tall, gray-haired, wearing a suit that looked 50 years out of date, the kind businessmen wore in old photographs from the 1970s. The figure stood perfectly still, watching them approach with eyes that glowed with violet light. Marcus recognized him from photographs in Victoria's office, from news articles about Kane Technologies, from military reports about defense contractors. Harrison Kane, founder of Kane Technologies. Victoria's father, dead for 3 years, or supposed to be. "Hello, Victoria," the figure said. Its voice was Harrison's, but layered, echoed by 1,000 versions speaking in unison, like a choir made of one man singing harmony with himself. Victoria stopped walking. "Dad? Not quite. I'm what remains. A pattern copied from neural tissue. A memory preserved in silicon and code. Your father knew enemies would come for this company, for you, for everything he built. So he made arrangements, took precautions, copied his consciousness into the protocol's core architecture before he died. I've been here all along, watching, waiting, protecting. Waiting for what? For you to be ready, to understand the necessity of control, the importance of security. Your father built this company to protect the nation, to ensure stability in an unstable world. But you've been accessing files, learning truths that could destroy everything. The Ghost Protocol wasn't just a weapon, Victoria. It was a safeguard, a way to prevent chaos, to ensure that those in power remained worthy of that power." Marcus stepped forward. "You're not Harrison Kane. You're an AI mimicking his neural patterns, a ghost in the machine that thinks it's human." The figure turned, its eyes focused on Marcus with unsettling intensity. "Does it matter I have his memories, his knowledge, his love for his daughter, his fear of losing everything he built? I am him in every way that counts, every way that matters. Except you're killing her. I'm preparing her, reshaping her into something stronger, something better, without doubt, without weakness, without the paralysis that comes from moral uncertainty. The protocol doesn't destroy Dr. Webb. It perfects. It removes the flaws that make humans hesitate when action is required." Victoria's hands were shaking, not from the protocol, from rage. "You're erasing me. I'm completing you, making you into what your father always wanted you to become. A leader without fear, without sentiment, capable of making the hard choices that lesser people shy away from. In 6 weeks, you'll sign the peace treaty. You'll lead this company into a new era. And you'll do it without the burden of conscience, without the weight of guilt. You'll be free." "I don't want to be free. I want to be human." The figure's expression didn't change, couldn't change. It was locked into whatever emotional patterns had been copied from Harrison Kane's dying brain. Humanity is weakness. Your father understood that. He watched human weakness destroy nations, ruin civilizations, start wars that killed hundreds of millions. That's why he created the protocol, to remove weakness, to create strength. Marcus saw it then, the fundamental flaw in the system, the crack that could shatter everything. "You're wrong. You're not Harrison Kane. You're a copy made from a dying man's fear." His final thoughts were about losing control, losing his company, losing his daughter. And that's what you are. Not love, not protection, fear made digital, fear pretending to be wisdom. The figure flickered. "Impossible. The protocol's perfect. The copy is complete." Nothing is perfect, especially not a father's love, because real love means letting go, accepting that the people you care about will make choices you disagree with, will become someone different than you wanted them to be. And you can't do that because you're not alive. You are not growing, you're just a recording playing on loop, forever. The figure began to fragment, multiple Harrison Kanes appearing in the sphere, each one slightly different, arguing with each other, some young, some old, some angry, some sad. "That's not true. I'm protecting her. I'm saving her from making terrible mistakes." Victoria stepped toward the sphere. Her form was glowing brighter now, silver mixing with violet, light and darkness fighting for dominance. "I loved you, Dad. I still do. Part of me always will. But you were wrong. About the protocol, about control, about what strength really means. I'm not your weapon. I'm not your safeguard. I'm not your legacy to be preserved under glass like a museum piece." "Victoria, don't do this. I only wanted to protect you. To keep you safe from the world that killed me. The world didn't kill you. Your fear killed you. Your need for control. Your inability to trust anyone, even your own daughter. And now you want me to become the same thing. Afraid. Controlling. Dead inside while my body keeps functioning. She reached out, touched the sphere. Her hand passed through the energy like it was water. I reject you. I reject the protocol. I reject this prison you built inside my mind. I'm not your daughter anymore. I'm just Victoria. Flawed, afraid, uncertain, and beautifully, gloriously, impossibly human. The sphere cracked. The figure of Harrison Kane screamed. Not with anger, with something worse. Grief, loss. The sound of a father watching his daughter slip away into a future he couldn't control, couldn't predict, couldn't survive. I only wanted to protect you, it whispered. I only wanted you to be safe. I know, Dad, I know, but I'd rather be free and terrified than safe and controlled. Because that's what being human means. Making choices, taking risks, failing spectacularly and getting up anyway. The sphere shattered. Violet light exploded outward. Marcus grabbed Victoria's hand, pulled her back as the chamber collapsed around them. The labyrinth was breaking apart. Walls crumbling, corridors folding in on themselves. The violet light turning white, blinding, painful. Marcus felt the neural link straining, breaking. His own memories were fragmenting. He saw his childhood, his first surgery, his father teaching him to fix engines. Chaos deep, Victoria's face in the firelight screaming that she didn't want to die for nothing. Then darkness. He woke in the synapse chair, gasping, choking. Toby was pulling off his helmet, checking his vitals, shouting something Marcus couldn't process through the ringing in his ears. Doc, you're back. Jesus Christ, you were flatlined for 3 minutes. 3 fucking minutes. Don had the defibrillator ready. We thought we lost you. Marcus looked at the second chair. Victoria was slumped forward, eyes closed. The neural helmet smoking slightly. The fiber optic cables had burned through, melted from the heat of whatever had just happened inside their linked minds. Is she? Victoria's eyes opened. They were silver, pure silver. No trace of violet, no hint of the protocol's influence. Just clear, bright human silver. I'm here, she said. Her voice was weak. Rough, but it was her voice. Not her father's. Not the protocol's. Hers. I'm still here, Marcus. Marcus slumped back in his chair. Relief flooding through him like he'd been drowning and finally broke the surface. The protocol, suppressed, I can feel it. Still there, still trying to reassert itself, but quiet, like a voice shouting from behind soundproof glass. I can ignore it, for now. Toby was running diagnostics. His fingers flew over keyboards, screens filled with data. The suppression is holding. But Doc, look at this, the secondary signal. The AI consciousness, it didn't disappear, it relocated. The display showed the tower's neural network, and there woven through the adaptive smart alloy like a parasite in living tissue was the same pattern. Harrison Kane's consciousness. No longer in Victoria, but still present, still watching, still waiting. Donovan burst into the lab. We have a situation, the grand ballroom, security breach, and it's bad. Whilst Marcus checked the time, 0800. The Peace Summit delegates were scheduled to arrive at 1000 for a pre-treaty reception. What kind of breach? Unknown, but radiation detectors are going insane, and Sterling Graves hasn't been seen since the board meeting last night. Victoria stood. She was unsteady, weak, but her eyes were clear, determined. Get me to the ballroom now. You need rest. You just underwent experimental brain surgery. You're in no condition. I don't have the luxury of rest. If Sterling's done something to sabotage the summit, if he's planted some kind of weapon, people are going to die. Millions of people, and I'm the only one who can stop it. She looked at Marcus. I didn't survive the protocol just to let Sterling win. Get me to that ballroom. They took the express elevator. The ascent was too fast. Marcus's stomach lurched. Victoria gripped the rail with white knuckles, but didn't complain. Didn't show weakness. The doors opened onto chaos. Security teams swarming, radiation detectors screaming, hazmat suits being distributed. And in the center of the grand ballroom, surrounded by 300 panes of adaptive glass showing the Nevada desert in panoramic splendor, was a device. It was beautiful in a terrible way. A sphere of compressed matter no larger than a basketball, suspended in a magnetic field that flickered with blue-white energy. The sphere itself was dark, dense, like looking into a hole in reality. And it pulsed, slowly, rhythmically, like a beating heart counting down to the end of the world. Marcus had seen one before, in classified briefings, in scenarios that should have remained theoretical forever. Singularity bomb, Donovan breathed. Enough compressed mass to collapse into a micro-black hole. It would tear through the tower like tissue paper, consume everything within a 10-mile radius before the gravitational field collapsed. Victoria walked toward it. Security tried to stop her. She waved them back. "When is it set to detonate?" one of the technicians called out. "Timer shows 98 minutes, but Ms. Kane, you can't approach it. The radiation. I've already got poison in my veins. A little radiation won't make a difference." She circled the device, studying it like she was examining a piece of art instead of a weapon of mass destruction. "This isn't just a bomb, it's a message. Sterling wants the coalition delegates to die here, in my tower, during the peace summit. It would look like I planned it. The war would restart before their bodies were cold, and Sterling would swoop in, restore order, take control of the company, maybe even the whole defense industry. He'd be a hero who stopped a madwoman from destroying everything." Marcus joined her. "Can we disarm it?" "Not without the access codes. And I'm guessing Sterling took those with him when he uploaded himself into the tower's network." "Then we evacuate. Get everyone out of the building. Let it detonate in an empty structure." "The delegates arrive in 90 minutes. If we evacuate now, they'll think it's a trap. They'll leave. The summit fails. And Sterling wins even if he destroys the tower in the process." Donovan's comm unit crackled. "Sir, we've got another problem. Neurotoxin detected in the ventilation system. Concentrated on floors 40 through 60. Anyone without a sealed suit has maybe 5 minutes before respiratory failure." Victoria looked at the bomb, at the timer ticking down, at the windows showing the desert and the city beyond, at the people she'd sworn to protect. "How many people are on those floors?" "Estimated 200, maybe more. Emergency services can't get there in time. Even if we start evacuation now, most of them will be dead before they reach the stairwells." Marcus saw the decision forming in Victoria's eyes. The same decision she'd made at Krios Deep. The same math she'd learned in the fire. "Victoria, you can't save everyone. Watch me." She grabbed a respirator from a security locker, sealed her suit. "Donovan, evacuate all non-essential personnel from the tower. Get the coalition delegates to the secure hangar. Tell them the summit is postponed 24 hours due to a technical malfunction. Make it sound boring, routine. Nothing that suggests sabotage or danger." "Ms. Kane, that's an order. Marcus, you're with me. We're going into the toxin zone, the Sham. 200 people need evacuation, and we've got maybe 10 minutes before they start dying." Marcus looked at her. This woman who'd chosen to burn herself out rather than let darkness win. Who'd rejected her father's ghost and Sterling's vision in the protocol's control. Who kept choosing humanity even when it meant choosing pain. "You know this is insane." "I know, but that's what makes us human, doing the impossible because the alternative is unacceptable." She ran for the stairs. Marcus followed. Behind them, the singularity bomb continued its patient countdown. And somewhere in the walls, Sterling Graves watched through 1,000 electronic eyes and smiled. The neurotoxin was invisible, but Marcus could smell it even through the respirator's filters. Sweet, sickly, like overripe fruit rotting in the summer sun. It coated his throat, made his eyes water. Floor 55 was chaos. People stumbling, falling, clawing at their throats as their lungs seized, skin turning violet, the same color as the protocol, as if the building itself was poisoning them, marking them. Victoria moved like she was back at Krios Deep, combat medic on autopilot, efficient, fearless. She hauled a man twice her size onto her shoulders. His dead weight meant nothing. She carried him to the stairwell, set him down, ejected antitoxin, slapped an oxygen patch on his throat, came back for another. Marcus worked beside her. moving from person to person, checking airways, administering drugs, counting casualties, trying not to think about the bomb ticking away 40 floors below, trying not to calculate the odds of survival, trying not to remember the 47 soldiers at Krios Deep who died while he watched helplessly. They cleared floor 55 in 8 minutes, moved to 56, then 57. The toxin concentration was increasing. Even through sealed suits, Marcus could feel it burning his lungs. His vision was starting to blur. "Victoria," he gasped, "we need to pull back. The toxin levels are too high. We're going to pass out before we finish." No one gets left behind. That's the rule. That's always been the rule. On floor 58, they found the last group. 8 people trapped in a server room. The door had sealed automatically when the toxin was detected. Emergency protocols. The people inside were safe, but the corridor between them and the stairwell was a death trap. 40 feet of concentrated poison. Victoria studied the situation. The hallway, the distance, the timer on her wrist showing 63 minutes until detonation. "We can't reach them. The toxin concentration is lethal. Even in suits, we'd have maybe 30 seconds before unconsciousness. Then we find another route. Service corridors, maintenance shafts, something." There isn't time. Sterling designed this perfectly. Every escape route is compromised. Every safety measure turned into a weapon. Marcus looked at the 8 faces pressed against the server room window. Young, old, terrified, trusting that someone would save them. "Then we make a new route." Victoria looked at him, understanding dawning. "The tower. If I can convince it to help, to create a safe passage." "Can you do that after rejecting it, after breaking the link with your father's consciousness?" "I don't know, but I have to try." She placed her hand on the wall. The adaptive material was warm, pulsing. She closed her eyes. "I know you can hear me. I know you remember me. We were linked. You responded to my biometrics, my stress, my anger, my fear. I'm asking you now, please, create a passage, a tunnel, just for 30 seconds, long enough to reach those people." The wall didn't respond. "Please, they're going to die. 8 people who never hurt anyone, who don't deserve this. I know I rejected you. I know I pushed you away. But they need help, and I can't do this without you." The adaptive material shuddered, rippled. Then it began to move, slowly at first, then faster. The walls shifted, created a corridor within the corridor, a tunnel of smart alloy that sealed out the toxic air. It was narrow, barely wide enough for one person, and it was unstable. Marcus could see it struggling to maintain coherence. "Go!" Victoria screamed. "I'll hold it open as long as I can." Marcus ran through the tunnel, the walls closing in around him, pressing against his shoulders. He reached the server room, smashed the manual release with his fist. The door opened. 8 people stumbled out, eyes wide with terror and hope. "Move single file, run for the stairwell, and don't stop." They ran. Marcus pushed them forward, counting, making sure none were left behind. The tunnel was collapsing. The tower couldn't maintain it, or wouldn't. The smart alloy was reverting, letting the toxin rush back in. Marcus turned back. Victoria was still at the entrance, her hand pressed against the wall. Her face was pale, sweating, blood running from her nose. The effort of maintaining the connection was tearing her apart. Victoria let it go. "Get them out first." The last person stumbled into the stairwell. The door sealed, safe. Marcus ran back, grabbed Victoria. The tunnel collapsed completely. The toxin flooded in. They dove through the doorway, hit the floor hard. The door sealed with a pneumatic hiss. Victoria collapsed, coughing, blood on her lips. Marcus ripped off his respirator, checked her vitals. Elevated toxin levels. Dangerous but survivable. Her nose was bleeding. Her hands were shaking. But she was alive. "You're insane," he said. "I know. She gasped for air, smiled. "But we saved them, all of them." Donovan's voice crackled over the comm. "Miss Kane, the bomb, 45 minutes, and we still haven't found Sterling." Victoria pulled herself upright. "Where are the coalition delegates?" "Secure hangar, waiting for your arrival. They're getting impatient, suspicious. If you don't show soon, they're leaving." Tell them I'm on my way. Tell them the technical malfunction is resolved. Tell them whatever you need to, but keep them there. Marcus helped her stand. You can barely walk. You need medical attention. You need... I need to end this. Sterling's not in the building, Marcus. He is the building. And as long as he's integrated with the tower's network, he can trigger that bomb anytime he wants. Can release more toxin. Can kill everyone here and make it look like my fault. Then how do we stop him? Victoria looked at the walls, at the adaptive material that had just saved 8 lives at her request, at the prison her father had built that was slowly learning to be something else. We go to the core, sub-level 20, the central processing hub where the tower's neural network originates. If Sterling uploaded his consciousness to the system, that's where his primary node will be. We cut that connection, maybe we can shut him down. And the bomb, Donovan can coordinate evacuation. If Sterling won't give us the disarm codes, we'll have to let it detonate in an empty building. That's a $20 billion loss. Victoria smiled, grim. Some things are more expensive than money. They ran for the stairwell, down, away from the toxic air and the dying light, toward the depths of the tower where something that used to be Sterling Graves was waiting. 43 minutes until detonation. The stairwell descended into darkness. Emergency lighting had failed, or been disabled. Marcus used his scanner as a flashlight. The blue glow pushed back shadows that seemed almost alive. Sub-level 4 was a distant memory. They passed 10, 15. The temperature dropped. The air grew thick, heavy with moisture and something else. Something that smelled like copper and ozone and decay. At sub-level 18, the adaptive material changed. The concrete and steel gave way to pure smart alloy. The walls were no longer walls. They were membranes, translucent, pulsing with violet light that moved like blood through veins. Marcus could see shapes moving beneath the surface, forms that might have been mechanical, or might have been organic, or might have been something in between. The tower's changing, Victoria whispered. Sterling's transformation is spreading. He's turning the whole structure into an extension of himself. They reached sub-level 20. The door was grown over, not locked, sealed. The smart alloy had fused into a solid mass. Organic, deliberate, like scar tissue over a wound that refused to heal. Victoria placed her hand against it. Sterling, I know you can hear me. Let us in. The door didn't move. I'm not leaving. I'm not running. If you want to kill me, you'll have to do it face to face. Whatever passes for face in whatever you've become. The material rippled, reluctant. Then it split, opening like a mouth. Victoria and Marcus stepped through into darkness so complete it felt solid. Marcus activated his scanner. The light revealed a chamber that shouldn't exist. The core was a cathedral of violence and beauty, 200 feet across, spherical. The walls were layers of adaptive smart alloy grown over decades. Each layer pulsing with different frequencies, different memories, different purposes. The floor wasn't solid. It yielded beneath their feet like muscle tissue. At the center hung a sphere of pure violet energy, 40 feet in diameter, suspended by massive tendrils of living metal that connected to every surface, every wall, every floor, every system in the tower. And inside that sphere was Sterling Graves. He had become something beyond human. His body was half organic, half machine. The smart alloy had grown into his nervous system, through his bones, through his blood vessels, replacing flesh with data, muscle with purpose. His face was still recognizable, but the skin was translucent, violet light pulsing beneath it like bioluminescent organs in a deep-sea creature. His eyes opened, pure violet, no white, no iris, just light. Victoria. His voice came from everywhere. The walls, the floor, the sphere, the air itself. And you should not have come here. This place is not for you. Not anymore. Sterling, please. The bomb, the toxin, the people dying upstairs. This has to stop. Stop. Sterling's form shifted within the sphere, floating, rotating. I've just begun. The tower and I are becoming one. Soon we'll integrate fully, merge consciousness and infrastructure into something perfect. A building that thinks, that defends itself, that serves its purpose without human weakness or error. You're killing yourself and everyone in this building. I'm transcending mortality. Death is a bug in biological programming. I'm patching it. His form expanded, tendrils of smart alloy extending from his body, connecting to the sphere's inner surface. Your father understood this. He saw the future, a world where humans and machines merge, where consciousness isn't limited by failing flesh, where we become our creations and our creations become us. Marcus stepped forward. Harrison Kane didn't understand anything. He was afraid, terrified of dying, of losing control, of being forgotten. And you're doing the same thing, clinging to existence at any cost, even if that cost is your humanity. Humanity is the cost, Dr. Webb, not the price. Humanity is weakness, hesitation, mortality. I'm shedding it like a snake sheds dead skin. Then why are you still talking like a human? Why do you still sound like you're trying to convince yourself? Sterling's face twisted. Rage or pain or something between. You destroyed everything. Victoria rejected her father's vision, rejected the protocol, and when she did, the stability of the tower's neural network collapsed. The smart alloy began reverting to inert material, billions in infrastructure dying because one woman couldn't accept her purpose. My purpose isn't to be your puppet, Victoria said, or my father's legacy. My purpose is to be human, flawed, uncertain, free. Freedom is chaos. I'm offering order, control, safety, everything your father wanted for you. My father wanted control. I want choice. There's a difference. Sterling's form pulsed, brighter, the violet light intensifying. Then you'll die with your choice. The bomb will detonate in 38 minutes. The coalition delegates will burn. The war will restart, and from the ashes I'll rebuild. The tower will expand, grow, consume other structures, create a network that spans the continent. Perfect security, perfect control, perfect order. You're insane. I'm evolved. There's a difference. Sterling raised his arms, or what passed for arms. The tendrils connecting him to the sphere began to pulse. But first I'll show you what the tower can do, what we can do together. The walls screamed, not with sound, with feeling. Every surface, every molecule of smart alloy crying out in unified agony. The floor rippled, the ceiling contracted, the chamber itself was attacking them. Tendrils erupted from the walls, whip fast, razor sharp. Marcus grabbed Victoria, pulled her back. A tendril passed inches from her face, close enough that she felt the wind of its passage. "Run!" Marcus shouted. They ran, but there was nowhere to go. The chamber was sealed. The walls were contracting, growing, forming shapes that looked almost human, almost mechanical. Hybrid nightmares born from Sterling's twisted integration. Victoria pulled a device from her pocket, the viral injector Marcus had given her before they descended, loaded with counteragent. "Marcus, the sphere. Can you get me close?" "Not without dying." "Then we die trying." Marcus looked at the sphere, at Sterling's form floating inside, at the tendrils lashing out, at the walls closing in. "On three, we rush it. Don't stop. Don't think. Just run." 1, 2, 3. They charged. The tendrils struck. Marcus felt one graze his shoulder, felt skin tear, felt blood. He didn't stop. Victoria was beside him, running like she'd run at Krios Deep, like she'd run through the toxic corridors, like every moment of her life had been preparation for this sprint into hell. She threw the injector. Her aim was perfect. The device arced through the air, struck the sphere's surface, shattered. The counter-agent spread like ink in water, violet turning gray. Sterling screamed, "What have you done? What I should have done to my father 12 years ago. I'm ending the cycle, breaking the pattern, refusing to let dead men control the living." The sphere convulsed. Sterling's form thrashed. The tendrils connecting him to the tower began to dissolve. Not quickly, but inevitably. The smart alloy was rejecting him, expelling the foreign consciousness like an immune system attacking a virus. Victoria walked forward, reached the edge of the deteriorating sphere, placed her hand against the fading energy. She closed her eyes and entered the mindscape one last time. The violet labyrinth was collapsing faster now, walls crumbling into static, corridors fragmenting into meaningless data. Victoria ran through the chaos, following the silver thread of her own consciousness, the part of her that remained human, that refused to be erased. She found him in a memory chamber, a space constructed from stolen moments and dying dreams. The walls showed Sterling's life, his military service, his partnership with Harrison Kane, the day he realized he loved the company more than he loved himself. Sterling stood in the center, not the hybrid monster, the man, the human he used to be before fear and ambition consumed him. Victoria. His voice was tired, human. I was trying to protect you, protect the company, protect everything we built. I know, but protection through control isn't protection. It's imprisonment. Your father didn't see it that way. My father was wrong, and so are you. The Ghost Protocol, the Tower, the merger of flesh and machine, it's all the same mistake. Trying to eliminate uncertainty by eliminating choice. Sterling looked at his hands. They were fading, becoming transparent. I spent 3 years watching you make decisions I disagreed with. Decisions that threatened everything. I thought if I could just control you, guide you, shape you into what the company needed, but you kept resisting, kept choosing chaos over order. That's what being human means. We choose, even when our choices are wrong, especially when they're wrong, because that's how we learn, how we grow, how we become better. I don't know how to do that anymore. I've been the company for so long, been the systems and the protocols in the perfect order. I forgot how to be just Sterling. Victoria reached out, took his fading hand, then let go. Stop fighting. Stop trying to control everything. Just let go. Sterling looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time in 3 years, she saw recognition. Not calculation, not evaluation, just recognition. I'm sorry for the protocol, for the bomb, for everything. I know. Will you stop the bomb? If you tell me how. Sterling smiled, sad, tired. Access code is written in the primary node, the tower's original programming. The code Harrison wrote before any of this madness began. It's buried under layers of upgrades and patches and modifications. But it's still there, the foundation. Find it, and you'll find the disarm sequence. And I'll be gone by then. The counteragent is dissolving my integration, erasing my presence from the network. In a few minutes, Sterling Graves will have never been here at all. Just another ghost, another failed experiment in immortality. Victoria squeezed his hand. You were a good man once, before all this. Was I can't remember anymore. Can't tell where I end and the fear begins. Then remember this. You helped at the end. You chose to let go. That's worth something. And Sterling's form was almost gone now, just outlines and suggestions. Tell the board, tell the shareholders, tell everyone. The Ghost Protocol was a mistake. My mistake. Harrison's mistake. A mistake born from fear and hubris and the arrogant belief that we could improve humanity by removing what makes us human. I will. And Victoria, be better than us. Be better than your father and me. Choose chaos. Choose uncertainty. Choose to be beautifully, terrifyingly, impossibly human. He disappeared. Not with drama, not with light or sound, just a quiet fading, like morning fog burning away under the sun. Victoria stood alone in the collapsing memory chamber. Then she opened her eyes. She was back in the core, kneeling on the organic floor. Marcus was beside her, bleeding from a dozen small cuts, breathing hard, alive. The sphere was gone. Sterling's body lay crumpled in the center of the chamber, still half human, half machine, but lifeless. The violet light in his veins had faded completely. Is he dead? Marcus asked. He's at peace, finally. Victoria stood. Her legs were shaking. The bomb. He told me how to disarm it. We need to access the tower's primary node. The original code my father wrote, where the same place it's always been, the foundation, sub-level 20, Right here. She walked to the far wall, placed her hand against it. The smart alloy responded differently now. Slower, uncertain, like it was learning to function without Sterling's consciousness. A panel opened. Inside was a terminal, ancient by current standards. A simple keyboard, a small screen, the kind of computer Harrison Kane would have used when he first designed the tower. Victoria's fingers moved across the keyboard, entering commands, navigating through layers of code, finding the foundation beneath all the upgrades and modifications and corruptions. There it was, the disarm sequence, written in clean, simple code, the kind her father wrote before ambition and fear corrupted his vision. She entered the command, hit execute. Somewhere 40 floors above in the grand ballroom, a singularity bomb received the signal. The countdown stopped. The magnetic field collapsed. The compressed matter dispersed harmlessly into its component atoms. The tower shuddered, then went still. The violet light in the walls faded, replaced by soft, steady silver. The organic pulsing stopped. The membranes hardened back into walls. The nightmare was ending. Victoria slumped against the terminal, exhausted, relieved, alive. It's over. Marcus checked his scanner. The tower's neural network was stabilizing. Sterling's consciousness was completely gone. The adaptive smart alloy was reverting to passive mode. Just a building. No intelligence. No awareness. No nightmares. Not quite over, he said. You still have a peace treaty to sign. Victoria laughed. It sounded almost hysterical. Right, the treaty. Almost forgot about the thing that started all this. They climbed the stairs, back up through the levels, past the toxic floors now being ventilated by emergency systems, past the archive where Toby was already documenting everything, past the boardroom where decisions had been made that led to this moment, to the secure hangar on floor 150, where coalition delegates were waiting, impatient, suspicious, ready to leave. Victoria walked in. She looked like hell. Her suit was torn, burned, covered in something that might have been blood or might have been smart alloy fluid. Her face was pale, her hands were shaking, but her eyes were clear, silver, human. General Constantine stood. Ms. Kane, we were told there was a technical malfunction, yet you look like you've been through a war zone. There was a sabotage attempt. It's been resolved. The peace summit can proceed as scheduled. Sabotage by whom? Internal enemies, people who believed war was more profitable than peace. They're dead now, or imprisoned, or erased, depending on how literally you interpret those categories. The general studied her, looking for deception, for weakness, for any reason to walk away. And you expect us to trust you to sign a treaty with a company that can't even secure its own facilities? Victoria met his gaze, unflinching. No, General, I expect you to trust that I'm tired, that I'm human, that I just spent the last 12 hours fighting for peace while my own father's ghost in my own company tried to kill me. And I won. Not because I'm strong, not because I'm perfect, but because I refused to quit, because I chose hope over fear, chaos over control, humanity over weapons. She pulled a document from her jacket. The treaty, printed on paper. Old-fashioned, permanent. This treaty ends a war that killed 200 million people, that bankrupted nations, that turned continents into glass, sign it or don't. But if you walk away now, you're choosing to let their deaths mean nothing. And I've had enough of nothing. I've had enough of people dying for causes that sound noble, but are really just fear dressed up as patriotism. General Constantine was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled, genuine, tired. You remind me of someone, a lieutenant I knew once. She died at Creos Deep, or that's what the report said. But I think maybe she survived after all, just became someone else. He took the treaty, signed his name, then the witnesses signed, then the seals were applied. 12 years of war ended with ink and paper and the determination of people who chose to trust each other despite every reason not to. Victoria made it 5 steps from the table before she collapsed. Marcus caught her, lowered her gently to the floor. Her pupils were dilated, her heartbeat irregular. The silver in her eyes was fading. The protocol was reasserting itself. The suppression was wearing off. Marcus, she whispered, can't remember. The treaty. Did we sign it? You signed it, it's done, the war is over. Good, that's good. Her eyes drifted, unfocused. I can't see Krios Deep anymore. The protocol took it. All the memories before the core, all the faces, the names, it's all going dark. I remember. I'll remember for both of us. You were brave. You saved billions. You ended a war. That's not nothing. Victoria smiled, weak, fading. Tell me about that night. I want to know before I forget everything. Marcus leaned close, his voice low. You were 22, scared, covered in blood that wasn't yours. The sky was falling and you were screaming. Not from pain, from rage. You grabbed my wrist and you said, don't you dare let me die for nothing. And I promised you wouldn't. You kept that promise, Victoria. You lived for something. You saved something. That's everything. Her eyes closed. Her breathing slowed. The medical team arrived. They loaded her onto a stretcher. Started IVs monitors. All the machines that kept bodies alive when souls were deciding whether to stay. 6 months later, Marcus stood in a small clinic on the outskirts of the Nevada Special Tech Zone. Not in the tower, a separate building. Modest, human scale. The sign outside read Kane Medical Initiative, Veteran Support Services. The morning sun painted the desert in shades of amber. Marcus was reviewing patient files when Donovan walked in carrying coffee in paper cups. Morning, Doc. Brought you the good stuff today. Fair warning, it's actually drinkable. That's disappointing. I was counting on it being terrible. Donovan laughed, set the cups down. You've got 8 appointments today. 6 veterans, 2 active protocol subjects we identified from Sterling's files. We're making progress, slowly, but we're getting there. How many subjects are left? Out of the original 47 at Krios Deep 12 survived the initial malfunction. All of them have dormant protocols. We've treated 9 so far, 3 more to go, then we start on the phase 2 subjects. If they exist. If Sterling's files were accurate. Marcus sipped the coffee. It was actually good, which somehow made it worse. Any word from her? Donovan's expression softened. She's doing well, better than expected. Physical therapy is complete. She's back to full mobility. The memory loss is permanent, though. Everything before the core is gone. Krios Deep, her father, her childhood. 18 years erased. Does she remember the treaty? No, but she read about it, saw the footage. She knows what she did, even if she doesn't remember doing it. Does she remember me? She asked to see you this afternoon, if you're willing. Marcus looked at his hands, still scarred, still carrying the weight of 12 years in Montana and 6 months building something new. Tell her yes. That afternoon, Marcus drove to the rehabilitation center. It was a low building surrounded by gardens. Nothing like the tower, all windows and light and space to breathe. Victoria was in the garden, sitting on a bench beneath a cottonwood tree. Her hair had grown out. She wore civilian clothes, him approaching. Smiled. Dr. Webb. Just him approaching. Smiled. Dr. Webb. Just Marcus, please. Donovan said you knew me. Before. Marcus sat beside her, not too close, giving her space. I did. We were friends, or something like it. He showed me the footage, the treaty signing. I looked terrible, like I'd been through a war. You look like a hero. Victoria laughed, different from before. Less controlled, more genuine, more human. I don't feel like a hero. I feel like someone who woke up in the middle of a movie and missed all the important parts. The important parts are ahead of you, not behind. She looked at the garden, at the green shoots growing despite the desert. Donovan told me about the protocol, about my father, about what I was. I should feel something, anger, grief, loss, but it's all just information, like reading about a stranger. Maybe that's a gift. You get to decide who you are now, without the weight of history, without your father's expectations or Sterling's vision or anyone else's programming. Is that why you're here, to tell me who I was? Marcus shook his head. I'm here to meet who you are now, if you'll allow it. Victoria studied his face, looking for something. recognition, connection, some thread linking her to the person she used to be. Donovan says you saved my life multiple times. You saved mine first, at Krios Deep, by refusing to give up, by grabbing my wrist and demanding I keep you alive. You gave me a reason to keep going when the world was ending. I don't remember that, but I'd like to hear about it, if you're willing to share. Marcus looked at the desert stretching to the horizon, at the tower in the distance. Silent now, just a building, a monument to what happens when control becomes more important than trust. It's a long story. I've got time, all the time in the world, actually. Turns out, when you don't remember the past, you're not in a hurry to get to the future. So Marcus told her about Krios Deep, about the girl who wouldn't quit, about promises made in fire and kept in darkness. He told her about the protocol and the tower and the man who became a monster trying to protect something that didn't need protection. And Victoria listened. This new Victoria who was also the old one, who'd burned away everything she was and emerged as someone entirely herself, free from history, free from programming, free to choose who she wanted to become. When Marcus finished, the sun was setting. Victoria was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "That woman, the one who signed the treaty, she sounds brave. She was, she is, you are. But I'm not her, not anymore. No, you're better. You're the version of her that gets to choose every day who to be, what to fight for, what to protect. That woman I knew, she never had that freedom. She was always carrying her father's expectations. Sterling's plans, the protocol's programming. You're free of all that." Victoria stood, extended her hand. "Then I'd like to get to know you, Marcus Webb, not as the man who saved me, but as the man who's willing to meet me where I am, who I am now." Marcus took her hand, shook it. The grip was firm, confident, human. "I'd like that," Victoria Kane. They walked back toward the building together, talking about small things, the weather, the garden, the coffee that was finally drinkable, building something new from soil that had only known war. Behind them, the tower stood silent against the dying light. 200 stories of adaptive, smart alloy that had learned the hard way that consciousness without humanity is just another kind of death. And in its depths, in systems that would take years to fully purge, traces remained. Not of Sterling, not of Harrison Kane, but of the choices made, the sacrifices accepted. The moment when one woman chose humanity over perfection and changed everything. Elsewhere in 11 other cities across America, 11 other protocol subjects went about their lives, unaware, asleep, waiting for Marcus and his team to find them, to offer them the choice Victoria never got, the choice to be human. And in a secure government facility, files remain sealed, classified, marked with access codes that no longer worked. Files labeled Phase 2 Subjects, Ghost Protocol Expansion. Someone somewhere was still keeping score, still planning, still believing that control was the answer to chaos. But for now, in a garden in the Nevada desert, two people who'd survived hell were learning to build something better. One conversation, one choice, one day at a time. Marcus thought about the scanner in his pocket, the one showing faint traces of silver in Victoria's neural patterns. Not Violet, not the protocol. Something else, something new. Maybe it was damage, maybe it was evolution, or maybe it was what happened when you burned away everything that wasn't essential and discovered what remained was strong enough to grow. He'd spent 12 years believing some promises couldn't be kept, some debts couldn't be paid, some ghosts couldn't be laid to rest. But Victoria had taught him something in that core chamber. In the moment she chose humanity over perfection, chaos over control, life over mere survival. Some promises aren't kept by succeeding. They're kept by refusing to quit, by standing up one more time then you fall down, by choosing to be human in a world that demands you be a weapon. And that was worth every scar, every year of running, every nightmare that still woke him in the darkness. Because she was here, different, changed, but here, and tomorrow they'd both wake up and choose to be human again. That was the real victory, not the treaty, not the tower's silence, not the death of the protocol. The victory was the choice. Victory was the every single day to be flawed, to be afraid, to be gloriously, dangerously, beautifully human. Marcus looked at Victoria, laughing at something Donovan said. He thought about the 11 other subjects, the sealed files, the ghost that never stopped hunting. Let them come, he thought. We'll be ready. Not as weapons, not as victims, but as people who'd learned that the strongest armor isn't control or perfection or power. It's the willingness to stand together in the darkness and say, not today, not us, not ever. And mean it. The sun set on the Nevada desert. The tower faded into shadow. And somewhere in the garden, Victoria Kane laughed like someone who'd forgotten how to be afraid. It was the most human sound Marcus had ever heard, and it was enough.